And my point in this is, there is an ancient religion known as the religion of the stars, and it dates back, I forget the exact date, but I think it's pretty close to 4,000 years ago. Maybe even longer. They don't really know. And it's hard to date things. Our calendars have changed so much, time frames have changed so much. But this crown of man that's spoken of in all the ancient mystical texts, you know, what is this crown of man? What do these sacred sites have? The crown of man was 12 constellations and our ability to gather each of those qualities. So for instance, we all have zodiacal signs, right? I'm a Leo. But it's not good enough to just say I'm a Leo, because I have all 12 modalities of all the other signs. My job as a Leo rules the heart, so it's about learning through the experience of the heart this lifetime all the other modalities. And each of you have your own sun signs in which you'll do that with, but eventually you'll get the crown of man, which leads to the crown of heaven. Kabbalistically, which is also my other passion, it talks about the crown of God and the crown of man. And so if we are to achieve what some of these sacred sites can give to us, it helps us to have this knowledge going into them, because we're going to have a better experience. We're going to have a much more appealing experience in these sacred sites. And so how do we achieve the crown of man? Because a lot of people say, well, Dana, you know, like, what does that really mean? And I don't have all the time that you have to sit and study this stuff. And what I'd like to let people know is these stone hinges were set up on sun and lunar influences. The moon travels through all 12 zodiacal signs, and it spends about 2.5 to 3 days in each sign. The moon is associated to the subconscious mind. When we sleep at night, most people are unaware of this. If I like to think of it this way, because I'm a bit of a romanticist, but I think the moon whispers to us some of the cosmic influences. So during certain dances around the landscape of the constellations, the moon causes dreams. It causes intuitive feelings, emotional structure. And we know that our emotional waters is where we feel things from. Everybody asks me as an intuitive psychic, and I've been doing this work for 23 years straight, full time. How do you channel? Where do you channel from? And everybody thinks you channel from here. No. You channel from your solar plexus. It's all about perceiving energies and feelings. And the greater we open our solar plexus, the greater the awareness. But we have to silence both hemispheres of our brain into a single focus, because our mind is dual in its nature. It has 2 hemispheres. And you know what our brain does best? It chatters. Chatter, 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 chatter. Gosh. And people, I also lecture with the Satguru Maharaji. And they wanted me to become a Swamini, and I told them I just don't eat an orange, and if I did, I'd do it. But my point to this is that we have to silence the mind from its chronic chattering. When we silence the mind, it allows us to align to a higher voice, to the inner voice. Madame Blavatsky spoke of it as the voice of silence. We could call it the God voice, goddess voice. But the point is, as long as our daily mind chatters, we can't hear it. When we go to these sacred sites, 1, we get excited. 2, my point with the Satguru, which I'm going to go back and cover now, because I'm sorry, my mind clicks through so many different screens sometimes. Even my students tell me, Dana, stay on target. But there's always so much information that links to others. But people ask me, how can I learn to meditate better? You know, because meditation is tricky. And how do I know that the voice I'm hearing isn't my own voice? Those are the 2 biggest questions asked of me through all my years of teaching. And what I tell them is, first of all, you have to silence the chattering voice. Then you'll know the other voice, and you'll know it's not your voice. And many times I'll channel things, and I'll go back and I'll look at it a day or 2 later, and I'll think, oh my God, that's brilliant. I know that could not have came from me, because I don't even know this stuff. So that's how you know the difference. But the point is in learning to silence the voice. I want to give a little clue to everybody in this room today how to do that. If you take a candle and you set it directly in front of you, and you let your mind only focus on the candle, do not let your eyes wander about a room, because you got to remember, we're trying to silence the mind. The mind gets bored easily. That's why it's always trying to look for other things to stimulate it. If you stare at that candle, eventually the mind goes, it's a candle, it's wax, it's hot, it's got a flame, it'll do what it does best. And then all of a sudden, it'll go, I'm bored. And it'll shut off. And the minute it gets bored and it shuts off, you'll feel this falling back. Many ancient Hermeticists, many ancient people wrote about this feeling of falling backwards, falling through the heavens. You'll feel this little bit of falling back. The minute you feel that, record it in your mind, because that's the takeoff point between the rational, logical thinking mind and the intuitional channeling mind. And then, of course, you'll come out of it because you'll go, ooh, I did it. So then go right back and do it again, and then you'll feel the shift again, and then eventually it becomes like a needle on a record. You can go back each time right to that point. So people say to me, how is it you can channel all the time? Anywhere. You can do it in a room full of talking people. Because, like Serena said, when you're in these sacred sites and when you're in that channel, you don't hear anything else. You're just there in that alignment. Now that brings me back to Stanton Drew, England, hinges, crop circles, and the importance of them. Most people are unaware that this religion of the stars, in which I spoke of, many of these ancient sites are aligned to different star constellations. And the importance of this is many people are unaware that Venus in her cyanotic period in the night sky forms a 5-pointed star. Mercury forms a 6-pointed star. Stanton Drew in England, this incredible Stonehenge that I am horribly fascinated with and in love with, forms a 5-pointed star. When sunrise comes on midwinter, which is the solstice, it forms in its alignment a 5-pointed star, which means it's trying to give us a huge clue about what this hinge is about. This hinge then is aligned to the Venus energy. It's aligned, so any of us who go to Stanton Drew and we stand in that circle, we are aligning to the 5-pointed star. What is that? What does that really mean? Well, I always forget. Is it Leonardo da Vinci who did the man standing like this? Okay, that's the 5-pointed man. Right? What the 5 points are about is working on all of our elements, earth, air, fire, water, and aligning them to the higher spiritual natures. So when you go to places like Albury, Stanton Drew, and especially in that region, you're aligning to the Venetian energy. Now, people say Venus, oh, that's love and desire. Yes, in the mundane sciences. In the alchemical sciences, it is absolutely about resurrecting and bringing about the spiritual nature and the spiritual body. So when we go to places like Albury, Stanton Drew, these other incredible places in England, depending upon where we are in the landscape will tell us what's going to happen to our cellular structure, to our conscious structure while being there. And also if we pay attention to how many pillars. Now, Stanton Drew, in part of it has 3 concentric circles. And why 3? You know, well, they were certainly monitoring sun, moon, and I would wager to say Venus. Because there tends to be this incredible alchemical dance. And alchemists know this. Every alchemist knows the dance, the divine marriage, right? They talk about the marriage between Mercury and Venus, and everybody thinks that's the heart and the mind, and that is true. But there's a different alchemical marriage between Mercury and Venus in these sacred sites. Almost every sacred site will be either aligned to Mercury or to Venus.